The conversation came out of nowhere. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone, mindlessly glancing at news stories that barely caught my attention when she came in from the kitchen. Holly didn't sit next to me. She didn't ask how my day was, or anything normal like we used to. Instead, she walked straight to the window, looking out into the evening. The last few weeks had been quiet in a way that felt off. Her silence, the coldness in her tone, the way she had avoided looking at me for days. It was like we were roommates in the same house, not a married couple. I had tried to dismiss it at first, but this was something different. Something changed, and I was afraid to confront it. She turned to me suddenly, almost as if she had made a decision in that moment. "You know," she said, her voice casual but sharp, "I think it's time we face the reality of where we are." I raised an eyebrow, already sensing where this was going. My stomach twisted, a knot tightening in my chest. She continued, but this time there was no hesitation in her words. "I'm not happy, and I don't think you are either." I opened my mouth to respond, but she quickly interrupted. "This isn't about you or me, Darrel. This is about us. About what we're not anymore." I could feel the confusion setting in. What the hell was she talking about? She sighed deeply and sat down across from me, her eyes avoiding mine. "We're stuck in this rut, this routine, and I can't do it anymore. We need a change. A big one." "What kind of change?" I asked, still not sure what she meant, but something about the way she said it made me nervous. Holly stood up again, walking over to the bookshelf, running her fingers over the spines of books without really looking at them. She took a moment before she spoke again, her voice much quieter this time. "I think we need to have an open relationship." The words hit like a punch to the gut. I couldn't breathe for a moment. "What?" She looked at me now, her expression unreadable. "We've been stuck for so long, Darrel. It's not about love or trust. It's about freedom. We need space. We need to experience other things. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I think it's the only way to fix us." I couldn't even comprehend what she was saying. "You want to see other people? You want me to see other people too?" Holly nodded slowly. "Yes, I think it will give us both the room to breathe. It's not about ending our marriage, it's about saving it. I think it's the only way we can truly move forward." My mind was racing, trying to piece together the fragments of what she just said. I had always believed that marriage meant exclusivity, that the commitment we made to each other was sacred. To hear her suggest something so foreign, so completely out of line with everything I had ever known, was like someone pushing me off a cliff. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "So, this is what you think will make things better? You think that's the solution?" She didn't hesitate. "Yes, I do." A wave of anger started bubbling up inside me, but I fought it down. This was too insane, too unbelievable. "And you think I'm just going to agree to this? To share you?" Holly's eyes flickered, her calm facade breaking for just a second. "It's not about sharing. It's about freedom." I shook my head. "This is ridiculous. You can't just decide that for us. You can't just change the rules of our relationship without even discussing it." But she was unwavering, her voice almost emotionless now. "I've already made up my mind. I can't keep pretending. We can either try this, or we can go our separate ways." I felt like the world was spinning around me. I wasn't sure if I was angry, sad, or completely numb. This wasn't a conversation I had prepared for. This wasn't what I had expected my life to turn into. I stood up from the couch, trying to gather my thoughts. My legs felt unsteady, like I was walking on air. I took a step toward her, and she didn't move, didn't even flinch. It was like she had already made peace with this decision, and I was the one who was left in the storm. "I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm okay with this," I said, my voice low but firm. "If this is really what you want, then I can't be part of it. I won't. Not like this." Her eyes softened, but there was no trace of surprise. She had already expected my reaction. "I understand, Darrel. I just wanted to be honest with you." I didn't say anything more. There was nothing else to say. She wanted freedom. She wanted something else, something beyond me. And as much as I wanted to fight for us, for what we had built, I knew deep down that I couldn't force something that wasn't there anymore. I walked out of the room, my mind still in a fog. I didn't know what was next, but I knew that whatever happened, nothing would ever be the same. Not for me, not for her. And as the door closed behind me, I realized that my life was about to change in ways I couldn't even imagine. I left the living room, my heart pounding as I walked out onto the balcony. The cool air hit my face, but it didn't help clear the fog in my mind. My head was spinning. I had always been the type of guy who tried to avoid confrontation, who tried to fix things quietly, without rocking the boat. But this was beyond anything I had ever imagined. I stared out over the city, watching the lights flicker in the distance. I should have been angry, right? I should have been furious that she was proposing such a ridiculous idea. But I wasn't. I was numb. Maybe that was worse. Maybe that's what hurt the most. Realizing that I wasn't even angry anymore, just resigned to the fact that things were slipping out of my control. I kept replaying her words over and over in my mind. I need freedom. We need space. We need to experience other things. It all sounded so clinical, so detached. Where was the love in that? Where was the commitment? I wasn't some possession she could just pass around like a toy when she grew bored of it. Or was I? I didn't even hear her come up behind me. She stood there for a while, just watching me, before I finally turned to face her. I don't know why I did. Maybe it was the quiet in the air that made me want to hear her voice again, to understand what she was trying to tell me, even though part of me didn't want to. I'm not going to fight you on this, I said before she could speak, my voice hoarse. I just don't understand how you can just flip a switch like that and throw everything away. She walked over to the railing, leaning against it as she looked out with me. It's not about throwing everything away. It's about fixing us. You felt it too, haven't you? Her eyes met mine, and for a moment, I thought I saw something in them that almost felt like regret, but it was gone too quickly to make sense of. I didn't answer. I didn't know how to. Yes, I had felt it. The distance, the lack of intimacy, the emotional walls she had been building up for months. But I never thought it would lead to this. What about us, Holly? I asked quietly. What happened to us? What happened to the connection we used to have? I thought we were good. I thought we were fine. She shook her head slowly, as if she were trying to convince herself more than me. It's not that simple, Darrel. People change. We change. It doesn't mean we don't love each other, but sometimes love isn't enough. The words hit me hard. I was supposed to be the one who understood. I was supposed to be the one to see things from her perspective. But every fiber of my being was telling me that I couldn't accept this. I wasn't ready to give up on us, on the life we had built, no matter how complicated it had become. I can't believe you're asking me to do this. I can't just let go like that. I took a step back, needing space from her, needing to breathe. How do I know this isn't just a phase? That you're not going to wake up one day and regret this? Holly's face softened, but there was no hesitation in her words. Maybe I will regret it. But right now, this is the only way I can see us moving forward. I don't want to lose you, Darrel, but I need this. Her words echoed in my mind, each one falling heavier than the last. She didn't want to lose me, but she needed this. I couldn't reconcile those two statements. If she needed this kind of freedom, if she needed to explore something beyond us, what did that mean for our marriage? I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in weeks, I saw the person I had married. But there was something different in her eyes, something unfamiliar. She wasn't the same person who had walked down the aisle with me all those years ago. She was a stranger, wrapped in a version of herself that I didn't recognize. I don't know if I can do this, Holly, I said quietly. I don't know if I can share you. I don't think I can just stand by and watch while you do whatever you want with other people. I'm not built that way. I'm not. That guy? Her lips parted slightly, and she took a step forward, as if trying to reach out to me. I never wanted to hurt you, Darrel, but we're not the same anymore. And I don't think we can go back. If we stay in this, pretending that everything is fine, we'll just keep drifting further apart. I was losing her. I could feel it in every word she said. Slowly, almost reluctantly, I nodded. I can't be that guy. I can't live like that. There was a long silence between us, thick with unsaid words. The city lights flickered below us, but everything felt so distant, so far away. I had no idea what was going to happen next. Holly stayed silent for a long time before she finally spoke. I don't want to be the one to make you feel like this, Darrel, but I can't live a lie either. I didn't respond. I couldn't. The truth was, I had already lost her in some way. But how could I ever accept it? How could I let her go, knowing that I might never get her back the way I once had? The night felt endless, the silence between us deafening. And I knew then, more than ever, that nothing would ever be the same again. The next few days passed in a haze, each one feeling like I was living in a slow-motion nightmare. Every time I looked at Holly, I felt that same knot tighten in my chest. The woman I had loved, the person I thought I knew better than anyone, was slipping through my fingers. It was like trying to hold water with my bare hands, watching it drip through the cracks no matter how hard I tried to hold on. She tried to act normal, as if nothing had changed. We still shared the same bed, ate dinner together, and even talked about mundane things like the weather or what we'd do over the weekend. But the distance between us had grown so wide that it was impossible to ignore. The chemistry, the intimacy, the connection we once shared, it was all gone. And worse, I was beginning to feel like I was invisible to her. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine, but I didn't know how to confront her again. It wasn't as simple as just asking her to change her mind. I knew she had made up her mind. She had already decided what she needed, and I was no longer a part of that vision. One evening, after I came home from work, I found her sitting in the living room, her eyes glued to her phone. She didn't look up when I walked in. Normally, Holly would have greeted me with a smile or a kiss, but this time, she didn't even acknowledge my presence. I felt my heart sink as I walked past her and into the kitchen, unsure of what to say. The silence between us had become unbearable, like a thick fog that hung in the air, making it impossible to see clearly. I leaned against the counter, trying to steady myself. The truth was, I was terrified. Terrified that I was losing her, terrified that no matter what I did, it wouldn't be enough. It had been so long since I had felt truly seen by her, and now it felt like I was invisible in my own home. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to confront her, had to say something. My voice trembled as I spoke, but I knew I had to ask. Holly, are we really doing this? Is this really what you want? She didn't answer right away. For a moment, I thought she hadn't heard me, but then she finally set her phone down and met my gaze. Her eyes were tired, distant, but there was a flicker of something in them that I couldn't quite read. Yes, she said simply, her voice flat, devoid of emotion. I want to move forward. I want to see other people, Darrel. I want to feel alive again. I felt a rush of anger flood through me, hot and fierce. And what about us? What about everything we've built together? Does that mean nothing to you? Holly stood up slowly, her face unreadable. It's not about you, Darrel. It's about me. It's about what I need. I've been suffocating for so long. I need to breathe. I need freedom. I could feel my hands clenching into fists at my sides. So, you think that running around with other people is the answer? You think that's going to make everything better? Her expression softened, but there was no apology in her eyes. I don't know, Darrel, but I know that staying in a relationship where we're both unhappy isn't the answer. We're both lying to ourselves, pretending that everything is fine when it's not. Her words hit harder than I expected. I had been pretending, hadn't I? Pretending that nothing was wrong, pretending that we could just go back to the way things were. But now I saw the truth in her eyes, the truth that had been there all along, buried beneath the silence and the distance. For a long moment, I didn't say anything. I just stood there, feeling like the ground had been ripped out from under me. I had always believed in the idea of marriage as a partnership, a commitment to each other no matter what. But what she was asking of me, what she was demanding, was something I couldn't wrap my head around. I can't do this, I finally said, my voice hoarse. I can't just sit back and watch you be with other people. I don't know how to handle that. Holly stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. You don't have to handle it, Darrel. You just have to accept it. Her words stung, but they were the truth. She had already made up her mind, and I was standing there, trying to fight against something that was already happening. She wasn't the woman I had married anymore. She wasn't even the person I thought I knew. She had become someone else, someone I didn't recognize. I turned away from her, my chest tight with emotion. I can't change who I am, Holly. I can't just pretend that this is something I'm okay with. I'm not the guy who can just let you do whatever you want and still love you the same. I heard her sigh behind me, a sound that almost sounded like relief. I'm not asking you to change who you are, Darrel. I'm just asking you to let me go. The words hit me like a slap in the face. I turned to face her, feeling the weight of her words settle into my bones. Let her go? Was that really what she wanted? Was she really ready to walk away from everything we had built? I didn't have the strength to answer. I just stood there, watching her, watching the woman I loved slip further and further away. I knew then that this wasn't just a phase, it wasn't just a bad patch. Holly had already made her choice. And as much as I wanted to fight for us, for the life we had shared, I knew deep down that I couldn't force her to stay. She was already gone. The silence that followed felt suffocating. The weight of Holly's words hung in the air like a storm cloud, and no matter how much I wanted to scream, to beg her to change her mind, something inside of me told me that I couldn't. It was like standing at the edge of a cliff, watching as the ground crumbled beneath me. No matter how many times I tried to hold on to the edge, it was slipping away, and all I could do was watch. I didn't speak again that night. I couldn't. Every time I opened my mouth, I felt like I was choking on my own words. How could I compete with whatever it was she was seeking outside of me? How could I be the man she wanted when, clearly, I wasn't even close? The next morning, I woke up early. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing, trying to process everything. I hadn't slept much, but even the exhaustion couldn't numb the ache in my chest. Holly was already up, probably getting ready for work. The house felt too quiet, too still. The absence of her presence was more deafening than anything. I got up and walked into the kitchen, hoping to find some semblance of normalcy, but it wasn't there. The coffee maker was still running, but the room felt colder than it should. Holly was standing by the counter, her back to me, focused on her phone. She didn't acknowledge me, but that wasn't unusual anymore. It was like we were strangers passing through each other's lives. "Are you leaving for work?" I asked, trying to break the silence, my voice sounding hollow even to me. She nodded, not looking up. Yeah. There it was again, the distance, the coldness. I could feel the walls she had built around herself, and I wasn't sure if I could break through them anymore. I opened my mouth to say something, to ask her if she was sure about this, if this was truly the path she wanted to take, but nothing came out. I was too tired, too emotionally drained. "Holly, I can't keep doing this," I finally said, my words barely above a whisper. This isn't what I want. I don't want to lose you." She turned to face me, her expression unreadable. "I don't want to lose you either, Darrel. But I can't keep pretending that everything is fine. We're not the same people we were when we first got together. I'm not the same person." I felt my heart tighten at her words. She was right, though. We had changed. But the person I was now, this broken version of myself, wasn't the man I wanted to be. This wasn't the life I had imagined. How could I be the one to let go when everything inside of me was screaming to hold on? "But this isn't the answer," I said, my voice cracking. "This open relationship idea, it's destroying us. You're destroying us." Holly's face softened for a brief moment. "I don't want to hurt you, Darrel, but this is something I need. It's not about you. It's about me finding myself again. And I can't do that here, in this relationship, with the way things are." The finality in her voice hit me like a slap. It was like she had already said goodbye. And that was it. There was nothing left to say. I was standing there, my entire world crumbling around me, and I couldn't do anything to stop it. She had already made her choice. I watched as she grabbed her bag and headed toward the door. I should have said something, should have stopped her, but the words were stuck in my throat. Holly didn't look back as she walked out, and I stood there, frozen in place. It was like she had already disappeared, and I was left alone with the wreckage of what we used to be. For the next few days, I went through the motions. I went to work, I ate, I slept, but none of it mattered. I wasn't living. I was existing. And the worst part? I didn't know what to do next. Holly had made it clear that she was done with me. She had made her choice, and I was just supposed to accept it. But how? How was I supposed to accept the fact that the woman I had spent years with, the woman I had promised to love and cherish, no longer wanted me? How was I supposed to let go of the dreams I had built with her? I spent hours trying to figure out what I had missed. What had gone wrong? Or had we lost each other? But no matter how much I searched for answers, I kept coming back to the same conclusion. Holly was gone. She had made her decision, and no amount of fighting was going to bring her back. It was like I was watching the life I had built slipping through my fingers, and all I could do was watch. I didn't know who I was anymore, didn't know what I was supposed to do. And then, as I was sitting in the living room, staring blankly at the TV, something strange happened. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, breaking the silence. I picked it up, expecting another notification or a text from work, but it was something else entirely. It was a message from Holly. I stared at the screen for a moment, unsure if I should open it. My heart was racing as I hesitated. Then I clicked on the message. The words were simple, yet they hit me like a freight train. "I need to talk. Can we meet tonight?" I stared at the message for what felt like an eternity, my thumb hovering over the screen. Holly had been distant for days, not even offering the smallest hint of what was going on in her head. And now, after everything, After her decision to walk away, after the emptiness that had consumed me, I was left with this cryptic message. I need to talk. Can we meet tonight? The message rattled me more than I wanted to admit. What could she possibly want to talk about? We had already said everything there was to say, or so I thought. She had made her choice, and I had accepted that, even though it felt like I was losing a part of myself in the process. I tossed my phone onto the couch, standing up to pace back and forth across the room. Every part of me screamed to ignore her, to just let it go and move on. But there was another part, the part that still cared, the part that wasn't ready to let go, telling me that maybe, just maybe, this was the conversation that could bring clarity. But what did I want from her? What was I hoping to hear? Did I still think that we could fix this? The more I thought about it, the more confused I became. There was a part of me that wanted answers, that needed to understand why she had come to this decision. But there was another part of me that feared whatever truth she might reveal. Would she be even further out of reach than I had already imagined? Or was this just another attempt to stir the pot, to confuse me even more? I checked the time. It was already late afternoon, and Holly had asked to meet tonight. I didn't know if I was ready to face her again, to walk into a conversation where the end result seemed inevitable. But I also couldn't shake the feeling that this meeting was important. Whatever was going on, this was it, the final chapter, or maybe the beginning of a new one. I sent her a quick reply, my fingers trembling slightly as I typed. Sure. Where do you want to meet? The reply came almost instantly. I'll pick you up in an hour. My heart skipped a beat. Pick me up? Was this a formal meeting or something else? I wasn't sure what to expect. She had never been like this before, not with me. There was a hint of finality in her tone, and it made me uneasy. I knew that whatever was about to happen would change everything. The hour passed in a blur. I stood in front of the mirror, unsure of what to wear. My usual casual attire seemed so out of place for what felt like a confrontation. But then again, was I confronting her? Or was she confronting me? I wasn't sure what to think. My emotions were all over the place, confusion and anger battling with a strange sense of hope. When the knock finally came at the door, I nearly jumped out of my skin. I took a deep breath, wiped my hands on my pants, and opened it. Holly stood there, looking as calm and composed as ever. She was wearing a light jacket, her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. But it was her eyes that caught my attention. They were different. There was something in them, something I couldn't quite place. Hey, she said softly, her voice almost too quiet. Hey, I replied, my voice rougher than I intended. She stood there for a moment, as if waiting for me to say something, but I didn't know what. There was so much I wanted to ask, but no words came. She gave a small, almost imperceptible nod and gestured for me to follow her. I grabbed my jacket, stepped outside, and locked the door behind me. We didn't talk on the walk to her car, the silence hanging between us like a heavy curtain. It wasn't awkward. It was just empty. When we got in the car, Holly started the engine, but didn't move right away. She seemed to be gathering her thoughts, her fingers tapping lightly on the steering wheel. I had never seen her like this before. She wasn't the confident woman I had married, the woman who always knew what to say or do. She seemed lost, unsure of what to do next. And for the first time in days, I realized that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as certain about her decisions as she had appeared to be. Where are we going? I asked, my voice breaking the silence. She hesitated for a second, then gave a small, almost sad smile. I thought it might be better to go somewhere neutral. Neutral. I wasn't sure what that meant, but I didn't push it. I was already bracing myself for whatever was about to come. What could she possibly have to say that would change anything? We were both at a crossroads, and I knew that this meeting wasn't going to be a reconciliation. It was just one more step toward whatever was waiting for us on the other side. The car ride seemed to stretch on forever. I could feel the tension between us growing with every passing minute, both of us lost in our own thoughts. The city passed by outside the window, the streetlights casting long shadows across the road, but inside the car, it felt like time had frozen. When Holly finally turned the car into a quiet, little restaurant parking lot, I felt a knot form in my stomach. This was it. Whatever had been brewing in the silence between us for the past few days was about to come to a head. She parked the car, turned off the engine, and sat there for a moment before looking at me. I don't know how to say this, Darrel, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But I need you to listen. My heart began to pound in my chest, the weight of her words pressing down on me. I didn't know what was coming next, but I knew that this would be the moment that would change everything again. The silence stretched between us like an endless void, and for a moment, I could only focus on the sound of my own breathing. Holly sat there, her hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles were white. I could see the slight tremor in her fingers, a small sign of vulnerability in her otherwise composed exterior. It felt like we were at a tipping point, a precipice where everything that had happened before would either shatter or somehow hold together, and I wasn't sure which direction we were headed. She finally spoke, her voice softer than I expected, almost fragile. "I never wanted to hurt you, Darrel. I never thought it would come to this." Her words hit me in a way I wasn't prepared for. I had expected anger, maybe even bitterness, but instead, there was a quiet sadness in her voice, as though she, too, was struggling with this decision. It was like she was trying to convince herself just as much as she was trying to convince me. "I don't understand, Holly," I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. "If you didn't want to hurt me, why did you do this? Why make this decision, especially now?" She turned to me, her eyes red-rimmed and tired, as though the weight of everything had finally caught up with her. "Because I don't know who I am anymore, Darrel," she said quietly. "I don't know how to love you the way you need me to, and I don't want to keep pretending that I can. I thought that maybe if we did this, if we gave each other freedom, it would bring us back together. But it hasn't worked like that." I stared at her, the sharp pang of hurt twisting in my chest. For months, I had tried to hold everything together. I had tried to ignore the small cracks in our relationship, telling myself it was just a phase, that it would get better. But I had been lying to myself, just like she had been lying to me. And now, she was admitting it, admitting that she had already checked out, long before I had realized it. "I don't know what to say," I said, my voice barely audible. "I've tried so hard to make this work. I thought if I loved you enough, if I just kept trying, you'd come back to me. But now I see that you already left." She reached out and placed her hand on mine, the contact surprisingly gentle. "I never wanted to leave you, Darrel, but I don't know how to stay anymore. And I'm not asking you to stay in this with me. I'm asking you to understand why I need this, why I need to be free." Her words were a knife to my heart, cutting deeper than anything else she had said. I felt the sharp sting of betrayal, the weight of her admission crushing me. It was as though everything we had, every promise we had made, had been a lie. She was already so far gone, and I was just now realizing that I couldn't catch up. "You think this freedom will make you happy?" I asked, my voice shaking. "That seeing other people is going to fix whatever is broken inside of you? You're not going to find what you're looking for out there, Holly. You're just running away from what we had." She sighed, her shoulders slumping as if the exhaustion of it all had finally taken its toll. "Maybe you're right. Maybe I won't find it. But I have to try, Darrel. I need to know who I am without you." I felt my stomach twist. Her words didn't feel like the woman I had married. It felt like I was talking to a stranger, someone who was completely foreign to me. This wasn't just about an open relationship anymore. It was about her needing to redefine herself, needing to escape the person she had become in this marriage. And that left me with nothing. I wasn't part of her plan anymore. I was just an obstacle. I didn't know what to say, what to feel. The emotions inside me were a tangled mess of confusion, betrayal, sadness, and anger. I wanted to scream at her, to make her understand the pain she was causing me, but something stopped me. Maybe it was the way she was looking at me, like she genuinely wanted me to understand, like she was hoping I'd see it from her perspective. But how could I? How could I look at this from any angle that made sense when everything she had just said felt like a final goodbye? "I don't want you to leave, Holly," I said, my voice low, the weight of the words making it hard to breathe. "But I don't know how to be here if you're already gone." She looked at me with those tired eyes, and I saw a flash of something. Regret? Fear? But it was gone before I could read it. "I don't want to leave either. But I can't stay like this. And I don't know how to fix it. I don't even know if it's fixable." The tears that had been building up inside me finally spilled over, and I couldn't stop them. I had spent so many days holding back, trying to keep it together, but now it all felt like too much. The weight of everything, of her leaving, of our love slipping through my fingers, was too much for me to carry anymore. "I wish things were different," I whispered. "I wish I could be the person you need me to be. But I don't know who that person is anymore. And I don't think you do either." She reached across the seat, brushing the tears from my cheek with a gentle hand. I'm sorry, Darrel. I really am. But I can't keep pretending that I'm someone I'm not. And I don't expect you to understand. I just need you to let me go. I felt like I had been punched in the chest. The finality of her words hit harder than anything else she had said. She wasn't asking for my forgiveness. She wasn't asking for a second chance. She was asking for me to let go. And somehow, I knew deep down that I had no choice. The silence that followed was suffocating. We both knew what had just happened. Holly had made her decision, and I was left to pick up the pieces of a life I wasn't sure how to rebuild. She started the car again, and the engine hummed softly as we pulled out of the parking lot. I couldn't even bring myself to say goodbye. The woman I had married was gone, and all that was left was a ghost of what we had once been. The silence in the car was deafening, and the weight of everything that had been said still hung heavily between us. Holly's eyes were fixed on the road, but I could see the tension in her posture, the way her hands gripped the steering wheel. It was like we were both trying to navigate this moment, but neither of us knew how to get through it. She had asked to meet, and now we were here, but nothing felt resolved. There were no answers, no sense of closure, just a growing divide. Why did you do this, Holly? I couldn't stop myself from asking, the question slipping out of my mouth before I could think. Why now? Why the sudden decision to open everything up? She glanced at me briefly, then returned her gaze to the road. I didn't plan for it to happen like this, Darrel. I didn't wake up one day and decide this is what I wanted. It's been building for a long time. I've been unhappy for so long, and I didn't know how to say it. You were right when you said I was distant. It wasn't you, it was me. And the more I tried to ignore it, the more it started to eat away at me. Her voice was quiet but steady, like she was confessing something she had been holding inside for a while. But it didn't feel like a confession. It felt like an explanation that was too late. My mind raced, the memories of the last few months flashing before me. The nights she had stayed late at work, the way she had withdrawn from me, how I had tried to brush it off, hoping things would get better. But it was clear now, it wasn't just a phase. It wasn't just stress. She had checked out, long before I even realized it. You should have told me, Holly, I said, my voice sharper than I intended. You should have told me what was going on instead of letting me drift along, thinking everything was fine. She took a deep breath, her fingers tightening on the wheel. I know, I should have, but I didn't want to hurt you, and I didn't know how to tell you. I kept thinking that maybe it would just pass, that we'd get back to the way we used to be. But I couldn't wait any longer. I had to face the truth. We drove in silence for a few moments, the only sound the hum of the tires against the road. I felt the ache in my chest deepen, the sting of betrayal that I had tried to ignore for so long. How could I have missed it? How had I failed to see that she was slipping away? Maybe I hadn't wanted to see it. Maybe I had been too afraid to face the fact that our marriage wasn't what it once was. Do you still love me? I asked, the words slipping out before I could stop them. It wasn't the question I wanted to ask, but it was the one I couldn't avoid. Holly's hands faltered on the steering wheel for a split second, and I caught a glimpse of her face in the rearview mirror. She looked like she had been waiting for me to ask that, like she knew it was coming. I do, she said, her voice soft but steady. I will always love you, Darrel. But love isn't enough. It hasn't been for a long time. Her words hit me like a physical blow, but I couldn't deny their truth. Love hadn't been enough. If it had, we wouldn't be here, sitting in this car, trying to figure out where everything went wrong. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that, I said, my voice shaky. I don't know how to move forward from here. You want freedom, you want something else, but I don't know how to let go of everything we built. She glanced at me, and for a brief moment, I saw something like regret flicker in her eyes. I don't expect you to understand. I don't expect you to agree with me. But this is what I need. This is the only way I know how to move forward. I turned to look out the window, the landscape passing by in a blur. I was numb. Every word she spoke, every confession, every admission she made felt like another layer being peeled away from the life I thought we had. It was like she was cutting through everything that had once meant something to us, everything I had held on to. When we arrived at the restaurant, I felt the weight of the decision settle on me. This wasn't just a meeting. This was the beginning of something I couldn't control. She had already made up her mind, and I was left standing in the aftermath, trying to catch my breath. We got out of the car and walked to the door in silence, both of us lost in our thoughts. Inside, the restaurant was quiet, the soft murmur of other patrons barely registering. Holly led me to a table in the back, and we sat across from each other, the space between us feeling wider than ever before. She didn't speak right away, and neither did I. We both knew that the next words would define everything. This wasn't just about an open relationship anymore. This was about who we were becoming, and I wasn't sure I liked the person I was in this moment. "I don't want to hurt you anymore, Darrel," Holly said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I can't keep living this lie. I can't keep pretending that I'm the person I used to be. And I know this isn't what you want, but I need you to understand that I'm doing this for me." The finality in her words hit me harder than anything else she had said. She wasn't asking for my forgiveness. She wasn't asking for my approval. She was telling me that this was the end, and I had no choice but to accept it. For the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't know what to say. There were no words left. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I was just empty. This was it. Holly had chosen her path, and there was nothing left for me to do but watch as she walked away from the life we once shared. We sat there in silence, both of us lost in our thoughts, knowing that nothing would ever be the same again. The silence stretched between us like a heavy fog, both of us retreating into our own thoughts. I was fighting the overwhelming urge to run, to escape from the pain, but somehow, I stayed seated. Holly's eyes were distant, but I saw something in them, a hint of vulnerability, of regret. It was as though she was seeing the full weight of what she was asking me to accept for the first time. "I don't want to lose you completely, Darrel," she said softly, her voice breaking the silence. "But I can't keep pretending like I'm okay when I'm not. I need this space to figure out who I am, what I want, without all the pressure of expectations." I leaned forward slightly, trying to make sense of everything she was saying. She was searching for herself, something I hadn't fully understood until now. The woman I had married was still there, buried beneath the changes, beneath the pain. She wasn't asking for everything to be destroyed, just for a chance to rediscover who she was. I took a deep breath. "I get it, Holly. I don't understand it fully, but I get that you need this. I need to start focusing on who I am, too. We both do." Her eyes flickered up to meet mine, and I saw a glimmer of hope there. It was the first real connection we had had in days. Maybe the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were both on the same page. I wasn't ready to give up on us, but I also knew that we needed time to heal separately before we could heal together. "I don't want to hold you back, Darrel," she said quietly. "I don't know what the future holds for us, but I don't want to end things in bitterness or regret. I want to remember the good." I nodded, feeling the weight of her words. I wasn't ready to let go of the good, either. Our history was filled with beautiful moments, moments of laughter, love, and partnership. Even if we were walking different paths now, I knew those memories would always be a part of me. "You're right," I said, my voice more steady than I expected. "We can't keep pretending everything is fine if it's not. But that doesn't mean we have to destroy what we've had. We've shared too much to let it all go in a moment." She smiled faintly, the tension in her shoulders easing just a little. "I never wanted to destroy it, Darrel. I think we both just lost sight of who we were together." A wave of calm washed over me. For the first time in what felt like weeks, I allowed myself to breathe. There was no perfect solution here, no easy fix, but there was a sense of peace, of understanding, that hadn't existed before. We were both trying to figure it out, and that was enough for now. We sat there for a few more minutes, the conversation shifting into quieter, more comfortable territory. We talked about nothing in particular: work, life, mutual friends. It wasn't a reconciliation, but it was something. It was the start of finding a way forward, whether together or apart. As the evening drew to a close, Holly stood up first, and I followed suit. She reached out and gave me a gentle hug, something I hadn't expected but was grateful for. "Thank you for listening, Darrel," she said, her voice sincere. "And for not giving up on me." "I'm not giving up on you," I said, pulling back and meeting her gaze. "But I'm not giving up on myself either. We both need to find our own way before we can figure out if there's a way back to each other." She nodded, a soft smile tugging at her lips. "Maybe there's hope for both of us yet." I watched her walk away, her figure disappearing into the night, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of clarity. It wasn't the end of everything, but the beginning of something new. We both had our own journeys to take, and while we didn't know what the future held, we weren't as lost as we had been before. There was still hope, still a chance for healing. And maybe, just maybe, there was a future for us, together or apart. But it would be one where we had both rediscovered who we were, individually, before we could ever hope to be who we once were together. As I made my way back home, a small but comforting thought settled in my mind. Things would get better. And even if they didn't turn out the way I had once imagined, I would be okay. I wasn't alone in this anymore. Neither of us were.